Hey, 7th grade. Today we're going to continue on with lesson 1-8. I just wanted to point out again that we're going to have a live class on Thursday of this week. And I'm going to use the same paper, Save a Tree, for our notes today. Mostly because we're continuing with rational numbers. Today we're going to be dividing rational numbers. And it's the same rules, right? We've got the same rules. So I've got this arrow that points up to our rules, so I don't have to rewrite it. You always can rewrite it, right? It's definitely not going to hurt you to do. But we're talking about those sign rules. So when we're dividing, right, or divide. So when we divide numbers that have the same sign, we'll get a positive answer. And if we divide numbers with different signs, then we'll get a negative answer. So the rules are the same. The rules are the same. So we're going to do a little review. Again, we're talking about an old skill like dividing decimals, and the new skill for 7th grade is adding the sign to it. So for our first example, we have the directions to find what negative 2 and 64 tenths, hundredths, thousandths divided by 24 hundredths is, right? And so the divisor goes on the outside, the dividend goes on the inside, and we can't have a decimal on the outside. So we have to move it to the end of the problem so that it becomes 24. And whatever we do on the outside, we have to do on the inside to keep it balanced. So that means we have to move it twice inside as well, which means our decimal, it goes between the 6 and the 4. And then we can go ahead and get started with the math, right? The decimal's not going to move anymore. We can just bring it up and plot it. So now we need to figure out how many times 24 is going to go into 206. And I don't know all the multiples of 24, but I do know that 24 is very close to 25. And because with money and quarters, and I use those a lot because it's money, I can make a good estimate based on what I know about quarters and 200 or $2. And there are 8. There are 8 quarters in $2. So that's going to be my first guess. And I'm going to try that over here. So 24 times 8. And I love work. So wherever it is that you do this, it should be on your paper. Okay? And then we multiply 8 times 2, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I get 192. So 192 is going to be the closest I get to 206. So now I can set it up and solve. 6 minus 2, and then I've got a 0, so I have to borrow. So that's going to leave me with just a 1. And I bring down the 4, so I get 144. So now again, if I'm thinking of quarters, 25, it takes 5 of these, right, to get to 150. Is that right? 6. It takes 6 of them. So that'll be my guess. So 24 times 6 is going to be 24. Carry the 2. I get 144. Okay, so my answer is going to be 8.6. And because I had a negative divided by a positive, my signs were different. So my answer needs to stay negative. So I have negative 8.6 for that one. Okay, we're also going to be working with fractions. So example 2, let's do a fraction. Let's say we have negative 5/6 divided by negative 2/3. Remember that when we divide fractions, we change the sign and we change the second fraction, okay? So we have negative 5/6 and our divided turns into a multiplication, right? We do the opposite sign. And because we do the opposite sign, we find the opposite. We do the reciprocal. So 2/3 turns into 3/2. Okay? And then we can always reduce or simplify within the problem. And sometimes people get nervous because they feel like they're not good at that. So you don't have to do it that way. So if we don't do that, if we just multiply across, we get -5 and a -3. So that's 15. It's a positive, right? A negative times a negative. That's when the signs are the same. So our answer is going to be positive. And then on the bottom, I get 6 times 2. Well, that's 12. And then if I simplify this, 12 goes into 15 once with 3 left over. And that can be reduced into 1 1/4. Okay? Or if you are good at simplifying, go back to the original. So we had 5, 6 times -3/2 here. You can always cancel, okay? Reduce. So 3 goes into 6. 3 goes into itself 1 time, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. So that leaves us with 5 times 1 on the top, which is 5, and 2 times 2 on the bottom, which is 4, which is also simplified into 1 1/4. Okay, so either way, I like to reduce. Keeps your numbers small. You're less likely to make a mistake when your numbers are small. Okay, let's do one more. I'm out of room. I'm going to flip it over for our last example. So example 3. This time we're going to do mixed numbers. So let's say we have -8 and 2/3 divided by -2 and 2/3. Okay? So neither one of these is in the right form. We need them to be just a simple fraction, a top and a bottom, a numerator and a denominator. So because they have 3 numbers here, we have to change them. So we're going to do that where we multiply and add to make them improper. So we have 8 times 3 and then plus 2, which is going to leave us with 26. The denominator stays the same. Okay, so 8 and 2/3 turns into a -26/3. And I want to show all my steps. I don't want to do too many at once because then I'll be likely to make a mistake. So I'm going to leave it divided by for now and worry about flipping the second fraction after. Okay, I want to make it improper first. So 3 times 2 plus 2 is going to give me a -8/3. And now that I've done that, I'm going to change my sign and do the opposite. So I have -26 over 3, and then now times. And I still have a negative number, but I'm going to flip, right? Find the reciprocal. So I'm going to flip the 2 numbers, which means I have a 3 on the top and I have an 8 on the bottom. And because I like simplifying and reducing first, I'm going to do that. So I have a 3 in the numerator and in the denominator. So those both cancel out. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And then 8 can't go into 26, but they are both even. So that means 2 goes into them. So I'm going to divide them both by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then 26, if I cut that in half or divide it by 2, I get 13. And when I multiply across, I have a negative times a negative, so I'm going to get a positive answer, which 13 times 1 gives me 13. And on the bottom, I have 1 times 4. So I need to simplify. 4 goes into 13 3 times with 1 left over, and I'm finished. Okay? All right, this is what you're going to be doing today. We are looking at homework on page 46. Okay? And I would like for you to do 8 through 20 even. If you have any questions, I will be on for my office hours at 2:15. Talk to you soon.